What is up, everyone? All right, in the last video you guys saw, we finally dyno tuned the 180. If you didn't watch the video, go watch it. It's sick. Thing's rowdy. I would say it surprised me, but it didn't, because I was expecting to do great things, and it did great things. It made awesome noises. I'm so pumped on it. Now it's time to make it look pretty and get it on the track. But in the meantime, we got some more work to do. I told you guys, we gotta jump back on the Pro car. We've been waiting for parts for this thing for a long time, and guess what? They've officially shown up, and now we can get some major progress on this car, which is huge. It is almost time to finally bring this thing to life. Boom, boom, boom. Come on, Jordy, give me some energy.
It's gonna have a pulse.
Okay, it's gonna have a pulse. So what do we need to do that? Well, that is the wiring. This is one of the last major hurdles of the project, and we have it all right here, which is incredible. We have the chassis harnesses, and then we have the engine harness. You guys saw me do basically this on the 180 a couple days ago, but come on, this is the Pro car. This is sick. This is actually quite a bit different. So, car has 0 wires in it right now, but mechanically, it's basically ready to start. Basically. So if we get all the wiring in, everything goes well, we should be able to hear this thing run super soon, which I'm dying to hear this thing. 3.4, 2J, EFO. I don't want to say I'm going to do it in this video. I'm going to try, but I can't promise anything because we have a lot of work to do. Let's check out what we got. You're probably sitting there like, Big Jim, Pro car, what are you doing? What do you got going on here? So what we have here is we have 2 different, we'll say, brand of harnesses. So for the engine harness, we went with Wiring Specialties. Now, Wiring Specialties is a brand I've been using for a long time. They're a brand of trust. They're a company I work very closely with. And what's nice is their price point is kind of unmatched. You could have 2 harnesses for less than the price of a full custom race spec harness. LZ has been using Wiring Specialty harnesses in FD for years. It has done them really well. And what's nice is we can have a full spare harness in the trailer, which is huge. And you guys have seen us replace these things in 30 minutes. So it's not a big deal. So if there's any fires, which things happen, and any accidents where the wires get damaged, we don't have to worry about repairing it. We just chuck a new harness in, which is huge. And these things have never let me down. So it was kind of a no-brainer with that.
So road car spec and race car spec?
Race car spec. It's all about the balance, right? Like, I could ramble on all about this, but you know, the more you look at the FD cars, in the last few years, you've really seen people start to kind of overdo them. It got to a point where it's just, everyone just throwing as much tech in, I wouldn't say build quality, but things were being overdone, right? People were making these over-the-top cars, and in the last few years, people started to simplify things, make things easier to replace, make things maybe cheaper to save some money on over projects. You could afford doubles of them. Make the cars as replaceable as possible, because in drifting, every single part of the car, even the shell, is a wearable and replaceable item. Like, you look at LZ's E36, it is probably the simplest car on grid. Like, it looks so replaceable, and I mean that in the best way possible. And it's like, and you look at that car, it always works. And the boys always get it back together super quickly. It's just, it's a cool, and it's very inspiring. So whatever. So this is the big thing. This is the chassis harness. This is where everything gets custom. Everything about this is custom and tailored to the chassis. So what I went with here, full custom harness by Hardstock Motorsports. I always say it's Hardstock.
So I'll put the app.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry. So the reason why I went with Hardstock is because, well, he's been in the Formula Drift scene for a long time. He's been around the build. He's been around the abuse and knows what it takes to build a good harness for these cars. And he knows how to tailor these things to chassis to really perform the best and to keep things simple and to keep things working. And he gave me a really great product for the price. And I also got to give him a huge shout out for making this as quickly as it did, because we couldn't even give him the measurements and everything for the harness until like a month and a half ago in the beginning of the FD season, when he's busy all the time. So thank you so much for getting this done. Now this is the last piece of the puzzle. Let me shut up and we'll start plugging stuff in. The chassis harness is in 2 separate harnesses. We essentially have a front harness and we got a rear harness. Now, we gotta just start plugging stuff in and see where it all goes. I'm gonna start with the rear of the harness. We're gonna start from the ass first. Gotta start in the rear, we talked about it. So.
Like with this car,
yeah.
you did a full Wiring Specialties chassis harness. Mm-hmm. Why did we not do that with this car?
So what's nice about this car is, it's very stock. Everything is in the stock locations, from the cluster to where the engine harness connects to where the fuel cell is, to where the battery is. It all kind of lands into a very consistent setup where they can make one chassis harness that works on 1,000 different cars. When it comes to like the Pro cars or like the full custom cars, everything is in different locations. Some people might want to put the PDMs in the inside. They might want to put 3 in the front, 2 in the back. It doesn't matter. The fuel cells are in different locations. Their sensors are in different locations on the chassis. And so you kind of have to do everything in a custom format because the whole chassis is custom.
That's why we had to pretty much finish the car and then send him measurements of everything.
Exactly. So we mounted everything, and I sent him detailed pictures with measurements of everything, so he was able to make this harness at home on this.
So this is like a one-off just for this car.
Exactly, which is really sick. So today, I want to get stuff plugged in and try to get things operating. Now, what makes this a lot different than what we've done in the past is we have PDMs, right? The PDMs are a big deal. We talked about these before. These are basically the modern equivalent of a fuse box and a relay box put together. We basically have the function of a fuse and a relay built into this little box with all these little outputs controlled by a little signal that either goes to a keypad or an ECU. And they do smaller ones, which is nice, so you could do multiple versus just have one giant PDM. And well, we have 3 on this car. In the rear, we got 2. Since the rear has a lot of the high amperage functions, we had to put 2 in the rear. I mean, we have multiple fuel pumps, we have the water pump, and we have the fans. Those are like the 3 things that pull the most amperage on any chassis. We got a lot of stuff to figure out, and a lot of stuff to plug in, but we're gonna start at our locating factor here, and that is the PDMs themselves. So we take our first plug, so that goes into the PDM, and we plug our second PDM in. Now, cable management is going to be a very important factor on this car. Super important, since this thing will be used and abused. So for now, let's get most of this plugged in and roughly laid so we can make sure everything works. So for this, we got everything wired, which is really nice. So we have our pumps on here, which is cool. So right off of the PDM, we get to power our pumps, which is huge, right? No crazy big chunky relay sticking out of the way. It's just like all simple and easy. We got pump 2. We got pump 1. And then we have our lift pump. When it comes to pro car builds, everyone has like their own recipe. Some people go crazy with sensors and hardware. Some guys keep it simple. It's all in your taste. For us, we're starting simple, but we have a lot of provisions in the harness to allow us to add on without having to like recreate everything, which is really nice. There's a couple of things in here we haven't wired in yet. Like we put a coolant pressure sensor back here, so we can keep an eye on that. We also have a plug for a fuel level sensor, so we want to have fuel level on the dash. I mean, with it being a pro car, you kind of constantly fill it up as you do tires. Yeah. So it's not a big deal, but it's nice having it in here so we could plug it in and have a fuel level sensor. On top of that, all the extra IOs that we have in our PDM, since we're not using every channel, he shoved in on a Deutsch connector. So if we want to add anything into it, we don't have to actually pin right to the PDM. We can put a plug on here and add. You know, say we add them to add some type of other accessory back here. I don't care if it's underglow or a third brake light, we could plug right into this. Actually, third brake lights, actually.
That's a good idea.
Whatever. It could be underglow control. It could be, we could add another fan back here. It doesn't matter. We have options, which is really cool. And now for the last piece on this PDM, we have the water pump. If you guys remember, we put the water pump underneath the car. So this thing is going down here. So to complete that PDM, we do have a big ground in the system. We got to definitely make sure we have proper grounds on this car. So moving on to the second PDM, we're gonna start off with the taillights. The clamshell is not on, so we can't put these in right now, but these are just on a Deutsch connector, so we're gonna have to change the plug on the taillight itself to a Deutsch, which is really easy. But this, obviously, is gonna come out and around taillights. This is one of those harnesses that probably will end up getting damaged one day. This is a chunky one. What do we got here? I'll put 1, fan 2. What we have is we have 2 big outputs of the fans, right? Because the fans draw a lot of current, and we have 2 spare outputs if we want to add anything later on in the future that does have high current. So let's see, fan 1, fan 2. I'll put this on the inside of the tube right here. So obviously these come with like generic crappy pins. So we'll change these to Deutsch connectors real quick so we can plug them in. Goodbye. You guys will probably see these type of like connectors quite a bit, right? The Deutsch connectors. It's kind of like turned into like an industry standard connector, which is nice, right? Because now you don't have to worry about having Nissan, Toyota, different type of connectors everywhere. Standardize everything to Bosch, makes it easier. That's probably why you'll see these like the gray with the orange, you'll see them everywhere. Take this. Look at that. I love these style crimps. So much better. Drop rain. Nice and easy, right? Oh. You get to change like one connector to feel like a hot shot, you know what I mean? Like,
I could have built my whole harness.
could have built the whole thing. And locked in, so I can take that. And boom! Fans plugged in, baby. I'm so excited to see things work. Like, we've never seen anything operate on the car yet. It's just been like this like piece of metal.
The last thing anything operated on this vehicle, you threw a rod through the plug.
Yeah, we did throw the rod in this engine in the parking lot. That was sick.
Oh, it just did.
It just died.
There's so much oil. Get the fucking thing plates. Oh, there's like 5 quarts of oil on the ground. This is crazy.
That was a bad idea, huh? Check it out, Steph. Oh, it's God! You could hear
Where to throw it through?
Right there.
Oh God. That felt crazy. It always runs best before it lets go. You heard it though. It grabbed a cylinder out of nowhere. What'd you get there? This is part of the block, I think. Then we have our water pump, which is underneath the car. We're converting this to Deutsch to plug into the harness. I'm excited to like hear this thing push some coolant around, you know? That's my first electric water pump.
Yeah, we can bleed the system without ever running the
Which
engine.
is so nice. And we could actually shut the car off and cool the engine down with that versus like sometimes you shut the engine off and it like bakes for a little while before it cools off. Like electric water pumps are sick. I'm always so tempted to put them on like random setups. Like I'd love to do like electric water pump on like an SR or something like that. There's like not really a downfall to it. It's sick. Remember guys, we got a lot of cable management to do, but for now, we're gonna play the shove it out of the way and let's figure out if it all works, you know? And boom, water pump, baby. It's sick, right?
I love it. I think it's so cool.
It's so sick, I love it. All right, so everything that needs to be plugged in the rear is plugged in. We have some extra IOs we'll deal with later. We do have to do the grounds on the PDMs. We're gonna do the grounds on the powers after. So we have to get this to communicate to the front, right? The ECU, the keypad, it all to communicate. So we have to go to the firewall here. So we have a bulkhead. We have a little cam lock on. How sick is that? I love that.
It's mil spec, yeah. I mean, it's just, that's so cool.
Race car. I love it. So we have to put it somewhere on the firewall. You know, somewhere that's out of the way, but also isn't impossible to get to. Now we have the rest of the harness, but it's crazy that like this is the rest of the entire car. I mean, besides the engine harness.
But chassis-wise, there's nothing.
So we have the accepting end right here for that lock. So you see how this bolts to the firewall? And then that will, here we'll show it. Let's see. That felt good. That's cool shit, dude. I love that. You take that. So that should be the front. Right, does that say headlights on it?
Headlight.
This is sick. So this is, I was gonna talk about it over here, but so this is the front headlight. This is where if I wanted to go electric power steering pump, I would. And so I had them put 2 spares in for electric power steering pump.
Or
Upgrades in the
anything.
future.
Upgrades in the future. I even had to put one in for a vacuum pump just in case I wanted to run a vacuum pump in the car. So trying to think ahead. Also, there's provisions for nitrous in here too. So
You need that.
yeah, so we made, that's what's nice about Harstock is he's been part of FD teams forever. So he knows like, you might want this one day, you might use this one day. It's probably better off if you put it here. So he was able to really help me sort this thing out to be prepared for the future. So hot in here. No, that's too bad, that's too bad. It's 100 degrees in here. We're gonna start at the PDM, which you guys saw we have our little board right here, which is sick. PDM there. Is that the front harness?
The whole front.
So we got brake light switch, dash, and then a kill switch. So this will be right here. So we're gonna use the dash bar as kind of like the routing of everything. Spare, ECU can, ECU, so this is ECU communication. And then we have our keypad, which is sick. You guys saw we mounted it up here. I might hate it. I could have decided I wanted it down low or up top, but I kind of think it looks sick up top. It's so funny because like every time I look at FD cars, I always like kind of dig into them for inspiration, you know? Just a lot of the guys that have been doing this have been doing it for a long time. You can kind of see what they learned. I like looking at the veteran cars because you like really get a different look from like, you can see the new guys and the veteran guys and how they build their cars. And I guess motorsports in general, it's always surprising at how much more crudely things are done. You know, because we try to build like these like nice street car swap things and you like want to tuck everything, everything's got to be perfect. And then like you look at professional cars or you look at like motorsport cars and everything, it's function. It's okay, like it might
I don't
look,
care how it looks. I want to be able to work on it easy.
exactly, because you want, when the car breaks and you're in a rush at the track, the last thing you care about is it being tucked and looking pretty. You want to be able to rip that thing out, get to it, and shove it right back up in there. So it's funny because like my perception of like what looks hack to me and what looks like actually like smart have completely flopped. Like things I used to think probably looked like a hack job, now I'm like, that was a good idea. Can you reach in there for me, Austin?
Yep.
These guys. Alright, right there. You're right there. This is the front of the chassis harness. Now we could run it out a couple different ways. I could either kind of drill back into this and run it into a factory location and go like kind of up and over in the over fender and it'll be tucked away. Or we can go out that hole through here and run this in the bay like this. Or we could just share the hole with the engine harness. Before I drill any holes, I'm gonna try and share it with the engine harness, see how it looks. I might hate it, and it takes 2 seconds to unplug it and plug it back in, so I'm gonna just run it through the engine harness hole for now. We have our wipers, which I still have to install. Chunky grounds, there's grounds everywhere, don't forget them. Headlight, spare, and a spare. These are high output spares, which is nice. If we ever want to add fans for our coolers, so we can add a fan to our oil cooler, we can add a fan to our intercooler, which have been really popular the last couple years. So it's always really nice to have spares in there. My main goal right now is to get this thing to where the 180 is, where we have all the functions that we need to get the car running so we get this thing started ASAP. Because I know that's the one thing like we're all really excited about. We're gonna free ball this one, Austin. That feels good. Let's see if that was a good spot. Spot on. Nice. Do I look soaked?
Yes, you look like you just jumped out of a pool. Okay.
Bulkhead in the firewall. Good spot for it. Out of the way. All right. Now the front PDM, front harness is now connected to the rear PDM and the rear harness. It's all one. Now we have to tie it together with the engine harness. Engine harness, you guys saw us just do this. Wiring specialties engine harness, they make life very easy. At the end of the day, it still is the engine harness. There's a lot of things to plug in, so it's gonna take a little bit of time. Cable management is gonna be very important in this one because there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of moving parts and there's a lot of heat in the engine bay. So if we check this thing out, you guys know with wiring specialties, you're able to pick whatever you want in your harness. You get to pick what engine you have, what chassis you have. If it's a common chassis, you're not gonna have like a Ford Taurus or, I don't know, Ford Fiesta or some random ass Hyundai.
For an SR20.
Yeah, for an SR20, but they're gonna have the major chassis that people modify, like the ZN6, S chassis, BMWs, you name it, all the common engines, anywhere from a rotary. You guys know the spiel. What was nice too is you could also pick what ECU you have, what coil packs you have, what injectors you have. What I like to do is I like to take off all our sub harnesses before we chuck it in there. It makes things simpler. Should have a sub harness for our coil packs, which we'll take off. These are wired for the GTR coils. We'll take this out. Sub harness for our extra sensors. What do we have here? VVTi, should be MAP and IAT, yep. So I had them add in a couple extra sensors we wouldn't usually use. So like one is a crankcase pressure, right? So we can measure crankcase. I mean, we're pushing these engines to the moon, right? This car should be near 1,000 horsepower. On this turbo, maybe like 800, but that's all we need for like Pro 2 level. But the engine's capable of 1,000, so if we want to make the Pro 1 power, we just changed the turbo. I went with a lot of combo sensors on this, which is cool. If you guys have seen, Bosch or Link sells the pressure temperature combo sensor. It's one sensor. So you can get oil pressure and oil temp in the same thing, fuel pressure, fuel temp.
That's cool. That
really
cuts
cool.
down on so much.
Exactly, so it's one connector now. It's 3 pins versus just, yeah. You know what the cheat code is? They're cheaper than pressure sensors. by like a lot.
That doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense. So even if you want to just save some money, it's a little bit fatter of a sensor. You could just get it and run it for pressure only. It's cheaper. I'll pull a shop to me. It's just a weird cheat code. So we also have turbo speed. So we'll have a speed sensor on the turbo shaft, which is cool. We usually never run that because we're never really pushing things over the limit. And we'll be pushing this thing as far as it can go. The turbo will be the limiting factor here. So we're gonna be pushing this turbo until we can't. And we don't wanna overspin it. If we overspin the turbo, it's gonna put it into a range where one, it won't last as long. It could obviously have failure because of it, which we don't want. But we're gonna be in this really weird inefficiency range, and the turbo speed sensor will help us know. So this harness, like all of this lays basically under the intake, so it's a little tight under here. This one might be a little bit of, I don't know, like we put a lot of stuff on this side. The big thing is the coolant pipes right here. They do take up a lot. I'm a little nervous about these things because we have a giant heat sink sitting right here, like underneath our intake manifold, so I'm tempted to actually cut those back and go AN till like it's under the car, because the AN line with the heat wrap won't emit a lot of heat, but this, even with it wrapped, we're gonna have a lot of heat being emitted, so it might be worth actually. It's so hard when you like building a car like this. You have to think of like everything. You have to think about how this is gonna screw you at the track. But you know what makes it the easiest way to find a problem is to have a baseline, and then it's easy to figure out what's wrong after that, right? So we have our baseline. Thank God for this Awaria Tech trans tunnel, or else we would have no room for the harness, because we had to put the engine so damn far back to clear this subframe. If we put the AN fittings right here, it'll allow us to connect to these and get the benefits of having tubes under the car without having the downfalls of having a tube in the bay like that. Because that's just like a giant heater. I've never installed one from the bottom before.
Hey, there's a first time for everything, right?
Yeah, she's tight down here. We're gonna have to do some moving stuff around, but I mean, luckily, like that's why we did everything and steel it, so we can like cut brackets off, weld new brackets on, and just spray paint it and never see it. Cars are just, there's always more stuff you have to add on. Like, it's like when you build a car, there's always more stuff that needs to be put into it, and then all of a sudden there's just a cluster, so.
Always evolving.
Yeah, I mean, this is a big engine in a little car, so. How's the wiring look from up there? Does it look good?
Yeah, it looks fine.
Looks pretty
Barely
simple.
even see it.
That's good. Here we go with our big ass PRP ignition coils. These things could literally, I don't know, spark diesel. It's a crazy, like, that's actually solid.
That was pretty good.
Yeah, that was good. All right, so the entire engine harness is basically plugged in. We have a couple sensors that aren't fully in the car yet. With the crankcase, we have the back pressure sensor, the crankcase pressure. We have to get those sensors actually in the engine. And then, back in my sauna. But now we have the engine harness right here, and we can get this, and that'll go. All right, so now we have to communicate the engine harness to the chassis harness. So we should have everything we need in here. So let's see. ECU power right here, and then we have 6-pin. ECU can too. The engine harness and the chassis harness are connected. They're communicating, which is huge. I know it looks a little ugly. I mean, it's actually not that bad. Like, if you think about it, these are all of the wires in the car.
Zip tie it to that bar, put the dash over it. You won't even see it.
You won't even see it. And it's really serviceable because we'll just cut these off, get to it, and it'll be nice and easy. No problem. There's still a bunch of stuff we need to do, right? We need to do all the Deutsch connectors for the taillights, things like the kill switch, like the brake pedal switch, and then I have to add a connector for our dash because obviously we want to see the dash working right away. Everything we need to be plugged in to actually hear the car run for the first time is plugged in, which is huge, right? All our functions are plugged in. Now, the next part of it is a part I always dread. I don't know why I always dread it. I think it's just tedious. Tedious things are never fun.
It takes a while.
It takes a while. And that is the ground system and the charging system. Grounds are grounds. Everyone knows grounds need to be grounded. So on a battery, you have a positive and negative. To complete the circuit, you need both connected. Cars use the metal of the chassis as the negative wire that goes to the battery. You can kind of use it as a big wire. If you think of your entire chassis, all of that metal, you think of it as one giant wire. And you're able to just tie into that one giant wire to make it to the battery grounds. Does that make you look at it differently now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's easy. You just localize everything so you don't have to keep running all these wires back to the battery. Just metal, 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 metal. So we have all the grounds in the system because everything that gets power also needs to get grounded. So you'll see we have terminals inside the chassis harness, inside the engine harness,
All the PDMs.
and all the PDMs, and that needs to go to metal on the chassis. So we have to do all that. Not hard, just tedious, right? Because we need good grounds. The nice thing is the entire car is bare metal and it's in steelite. And the steelite's conductive, so we can kind of just put it anywhere, and we just gotta make it nicely. Now, when it comes to the charging system or the power system, we talked about this quickly on the 180, but this is gonna be all our areas that need a thick wire. The main high amperage functions, right? So we'll have the starter. Don't judge my handwriting. Alternator. And then we need the battery. And you need your fuse box. Power comes from battery. It's charged by the alternator. High current to start the engine, and then you need the fuse box to then send that power from the battery to the entire chassis.
We don't have this.
No, we don't have fuse boxes, so now they're called PDMs. Bitch. It's the future.
Is that the technical term?
PDMs, bitch. These all need to be tied together. Doesn't really matter how they're tied together. They just need to all come together, and the more efficiently you can do it, the less chances you're gonna have for shorts, and the nicer it's gonna look. We gotta find a nice way to kind of daisy chain it all together. So there's a million different things you could use for a power harness. My cheat code is always buying welding wire. It's really cheap. It's easy to get. It's
Yeah, I
just,
think that whole roll is like 30 bucks.
it's like 40 bucks, yeah. But like, it's way cheaper than buying like, if you buy battery relocation cable, automotive cable, it's like triple the price for no reason. I get 4 gauge, some guys like going 2 gauge, some guys like going 0. 4's been good to me, so. These, same thing, you can get these at the welding store. You can get them at AutoZone, they're nice. You take it on, buy yourself a little hydraulic crimper, you can get them on Amazon. Or you can get yourself a nice hammer. Feels good to use tools though, doesn't it? See? That ain't going nowhere. And then one last step. The garage fan is screwing me over right now.
We have to have it all.
It's like you're in high school, like huddling behind the bleachers with your buddies trying to light up the... Help me out here, man. Heat shrink makes it look pretty professional, you know? If it's a power cable, it's good practice to use red heat shrink. The PDM stuff I'll get red heat shrink for. I don't really care for the stuff in the bay because it's obvious.
Yeah.
Whatever. So, let's make a bunch of these and connect the entire power system. Wires later, so many 4 gauge wires. We have everything powered and everything ground. Now not everything is finalized, we don't have the time for it, but we're gonna make sure everything works, and then we can spend the time off camera to finalize everything. So you can probably tell, like, I have all my ground stacked right here, which is fine. That probably is the most pro car looking thing on this car, is the fact that all of these wires are just chucked, dude.
Easily accessible.
Yeah, whatever, but we're all plugged in. Everything has power. Everything's hooked up, the fan's hooked up. The big thing is we don't have a battery location yet. We need a battery, and then we need a kill switch for the battery. We don't have time for that, so right now the battery is sitting in the passenger seat with jumper cables going to the PDMs, which connects the battery to the power source. Does that make sense? That we can finalize later on, but for now, it's gonna work. We should have everything plugged in, engine harness. I even wired in the headlights, so we should be able to see all those work. But now it's time to set the PDMs up. So since the PDMs are like an ECU, you have to set them up, right? They need their own base map. You need to say what it needs to turn on, where it needs to send the power, what conditions you want to turn them on and off in, which means it does take a little bit to set up. So we have Link's PDM software right here. It's my first time actually in it, so thank God we have Mr. Brian Hartsock himself to set up the base map for me. So we should be able to get to this pretty quickly. First thing we have plugged in is PDM number 3. We're gonna start from the back. Right now we have it plugged in, PDM number 3, right here you can see power going to the PDM. Pretty little LED. The main functions on this are the fans and the taillights. We don't have taillights in right now, so we're not gonna see that, but we can see the fans working for the first time. So we got both fans on, controlled by the PDM, which is really cool. The current draw right here. So you see these spikes right here. We always say, like, electric motors, always the biggest draw is when they first kick on. You can see the big spike of amperage draw right here, which is pulls 50 amps on startup, and then it sits at like 13 amps. It's kind of crazy, right?
It's coming to life.
It's coming to life. Things are happening. Things are working for the. This is the first working thing on the car.
That's so crazy.
So that is a huge win. I'm super freaking excited. So now let's move on to the other PDMs and get all the other functions to work. All right, so Brian just set up all the functions for our other rear PDM. So we have fuel pumps and water pump. So we test them up. So this would be our lift pump right here. You hear it? She's screaming. And then we have fuel pump number 1. Hopefully no fuel leaks. You want to run up to
Nothing underneath.
anything in the back?
No leaks up front.
Cool. And then we have a second fuel pump, so I'll kick that on real quick. The last thing is the water pump, since we have an electric water pump, which I think is the coolest thing in the world. Active. You don't even hear it. I thought the water pump would be loud.
Yeah, it's really quiet.
It's a big water pump. You would think it'd be loud, but the Mezier, it's like the expensive one everyone told me to get. Listen, it's
Yeah, you could kind of
you could put that in a road car. I figured that thing would be screaming.
hear it. That's crazy.
That's sick. So now the coolant is cycling, which is cool. Like, the engine's not running, but yet coolant is flowing through the engine right now, flowing through the radiator and everything, which I think is the coolest thing ever, because we could like post-cool and everything. Like, on top of that, we quickly banged out the front PDM. So we have a keypad. So if you guys see our keypad up top, we have to define what these control, right? So if we define, we'll say button number 1, if we want to turn on the headlights. We also need to make sure if it wants to latch or not. So like if it's momentary, you push it, the headlights will go on, but as soon as you lift, it shuts off. So we also have to define that, hey, if we hit it, stay on. When we hit it, stays off. So, ready? So this is headlights. See how it kicks on? The green says that it is a
Constant state. Like as soon as you
yeah, it's in a good constant state. So go look at the front. We got headlights, baby. Makes it feel like a real car.
It's all working.
It's a street car now. And then we added wipers, which I don't have hooked up yet. And then we also have this button, which this will turn on ignition. So this will turn the ECU on. So you see the light on the ECU. Yeah. Cool. Shut that off, which turns everything on the harness on. And then this will be the starter. But we're having issues with the starter.
So we're this close to starting it.
Yeah, I think my starter might be bad.
That would be so shitty if that's the reason we can't start it.
I'm gonna cry if the starter is the reason that we can't start this. I'm trying so hard. So now the PDMs are all set up, but here's the thing. Now we need to make sure the ECU can talk to the PDM, because as you guys saw, we have the keypad that tells the PDM to do stuff, right? Make sense? But now there's some functions that the ECU is gonna tell the PDMs to do. We'll let the ECU control the emergency function so that it'll turn the water pump on at a certain temp. It'll keep it on. I'll have it so it can post flow. If the car is hot and I shut it off, it'll keep it flowing, help cool the engine down. The fuel pumps, of course, the ECU will prime them, and then when you're cranking, it'll turn them on, like OEM type of functions. Really no reason for us to have on a button unless we need to override, but if we can let the ECU do it, that's less things I have to think about. All right, well, just about everything is now working, which is huge. Basically everything enough to get the car hopefully started. Fuel pumps, water pump, all the goodness, all the PDM, everything's communicating, ECU is on, all our sensors are reading. Problem is, the connecting factor, the starter, doesn't work. It just keeps tripping. I got it to crank over a little bit, but it doesn't want to do it. So I'm gonna pull this thing out and we have another one, and let's just hope that the starter's bad and it's not another issue.
You want to hit it with a hammer first?
You wanna hit it with a hammer? We didn't even hit it with a hammer. We should have.
We didn't even try it.
Damn, that's like thing number 1 to do, smack it with a hammer. I don't know where this starter came from. It was just on my shelf. So.
Just stock Jay-Z starter.
Dude, there's so much stuff on that shelf. I don't know where it came from. We can test it. I mean, it works. The plug's broken as shit, but. Wake it up.
Doesn't sound like it's like intermittent or anything either.
No, I mean, technically it could still be weak and not have enough nut to rotate the engine over. I mean, it's not the easiest rotating engine. I gotta order one. But we have to wait like 3 hours, so let's put this in and try to send a a bunch of amps through it. So we can get this engine to rotate over. But I rotated it over by hand and it rotates fine, so I'm not worried about that. Maybe we just like had to clean her up, you know what I mean? Clean those brushes off, you know? You ever try unplugging it and plugging it back in? This is like the mechanical equivalent of that. I wish we were just fixing Wi-Fi right now. Yeah, I think the starter is just, because it sounds like the engine's tight, but it doesn't feel any tighter than my stock 1J, so. All right, let's order a starter and hope that's it. What a tease, right? It's like, just let me crank this thing.
Right there.
Right there. All right, so I took the starter out the black coupe. I want to hear this thing do things. Put the battery in a better spot, and I decided to take the plugs out of the engine so there's less rotational resistance, so it'll actually crank faster so we can build oil pressure faster. Fresh engine, I want the thing filled up with oil ASAP. So now, PDM's on, PDM's connected to the starter. Survey says, oh.
She cranks, baby.
She cranks, baby. Let me actually make sure, let's see if it's building oil pressure. 10, 12, come on, 15, 16, 20. Oil pressure's at 30, get it up, get it up, get it up, get it up. I'll kill the battery, I don't care, I got oil in this engine. All right, that got quite a bit of 40 PSI with oil pressure, so we could assume everything in the engine is now wet.
Put the plugs back in.
Let's put the plugs back in. Write up some type of base map and hope that everything else works, and it should start. It's a JZ. Oh, my ass is so whooped. So I've been 100 degrees outside all week, and I leave for Poland in the morning. It's getting late, so one more time. Oh, it just feels good for the soul. Okay, here we go. Big old PRP coils. It's a JZ, just needs like injectors and they just like run, so. All right, they should start, like, it's a JZ. All right, you're on like leak and thing duty. All right.
Did you cross your T's and dot your I's on this one, buddy?
Cross your fingers and your
Yeah.
find all your toes.
Is crossed in my pants. It's like this.
This is a huge step forward for this car.
Yeah. And then once we know everything works, then I can actually tie everything up. The Spoon comes back tomorrow, he's gonna look at the car and be so mad at me because all the wires are not, which is good. We've had to move quite a few things around, so it's not worth doing all your cable management until everything is checking out.
We're figuring out everything works.
All right.
No way.
All right, timing's off, but it started like instantly.
Yeah, it did start right up.
She's pretty cool already, dude.
I told you it was gonna start right up though, JZ's, man. All right, I quickly realized that I rushed the base map and set the firing order up. I'm sitting here, I'm like, it sounds out of time, but it's in time.
So now,
Yes. Too much running around, all right? It's getting late. You see how much water I've lost today?
Yeah, when's the last time you had something to drink?
Yeah, good. Yeah, let's do that. I'm gonna get some water and then we're gonna start this thing. Such a mess. This isn't peak Jimmy, all right? But we got Brian here now.
Long day.
You guys ready to hear this JZ purr? Yeah, me too.
Right up. It definitely started right up.
Didn't mess with if I forget the firing order there, that's like the first time I've ever done that, it would have started like that. The first time I hit the button. That's always something. Sounds sick! Let me set the base idle up so we can get this thing actually idling stuff. It's a brand new motor, so I do want to get it up to operating temp and then let it sit there for a little bit so we can get that braking oil out of it and put some new braking oil in it.
That wasn't bad, right, Dave? That wasn't bad.
He's so tired.
It's always small, stupid stuff that you just overlook because you're just trying to do too much, which then creates more, and then it's like a whole thing. The smoothest days are the ones when you have all the time in the world, isn't it?
So you're saying it was on stupid?
Yeah, it's always not stupid.
I could have told you that. Nice work, Dave.
so sick. It sounds like a fucking pro car, you know what I mean?
It
Like,
really does.
it sounds right, like, that's so sick. It just sounds like FT.
It sounds like a 3.4.
Yeah,
It's crazy. You got like, you can hear it.
You can see, you can like feel the torque of the engine just revving it.
The car bouncing around on the lift. Every time you hit the gas, the car on the lift is like,
Oh, Brian, listen. I wanted to hear that so bad. Pro car, baby! Fuck, that is the coolest thing ever.
that is so sick.
It sounds like a race car. That's crazy. Try it.
That's ridiculous. The throttle response is just like, ah!
It's nuts, right? I can't believe how fast it like responds. So, all right, let me set this thing on. We're hanging out at operating temp, which is huge, right? That's our first thing is we want to get to operating temp. It's a freshly built engine. You don't want it to stay at the same RPM. You don't want it to just idle there. People have their own recipes, but I want those pistons to be moving around. I want those rings to be moving around. We're not bouncing off the limiter, but we are getting some RPM to it to try and get those rings to do something and scratch it and kind of wear themselves nicely in with the walls. So that's the first start. We had the firing order. I had the firing order wrong on that. The second time we tried to start it, but we caught it super quick.
That's fine.
I mean, we caught it super quick, which is sick. And then from there, it just started right up. The Jay-Z's, they always do me good, and it went. I mean, dude, it sounds insane. Like, we know what 3.4 sound like. You know, we've been around and stuff like that, and it almost like until you hear it run, it doesn't actually feel like what it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The energy of the car now is completely different to me. Before I saw it as like this chunk of metal, and now I see it as like this like.
Potential, yeah.
Yeah, like this tool. It's sick. So we got all our functions on our PDM working today. We got a couple of things we had to move around, but we got them all to work. Now the engine starts, all the functions work, all the sensors work. That is huge. So now I got to do a game of wire management, tie everything back up, make sure it's all nice and pretty and out of the way. And then we'll change the oil, get some new braking oil in it. And then, I mean, it's get some axles in it and put it on the dyno.
This thing sounds cool. This is smooth.
It's so freaking cool, dude. Like,
Oh my god.
I'm so happy we got it to get done today. You said in the beginning of the video, I was like, dude, I don't know if I could promise this. Let's not say it, but we made it happen. I'm hyped. I busted my ass on this thing too, so to get both cars running within a week of each other.
Two completely different engines and fully built motors.
Yeah, and both were completely unwired chassis that were like not finished, so I'm proud of myself. That was a lot of work. They're basically at like actually this car I'd say is a little bit more complete than this car. We need axles in this thing. We need to mount the battery, get the seats in it, and then a couple we have to put a catch can on it, and then it's set up the suspension and make it one color. I still haven't picked a color.
Yeah, that's okay.
I think I just
We
need
don't have to pick a color to test this thing.
Maybe
Yeah,
you need to. I was just gonna say, maybe you should drive it first, and that'll tell you what the color is.
I don't understand that at all, but I get it. You know, I get
If
it.
you shit yourself on the first corner, it might be brown.
Say that again. What did you just say?
DJ thing you've ever said.
You said take her on a date.
You gotta at least take her out on a first date before you pick the name of your first child.
Made it happen. I'm stoked. This thing's super cool. Now, the big hurdle we were waiting on is over, so now it's on to the next hurdle, and that is finalizing it and getting this thing ready to test. So I hope you guys are excited because I'm super excited, but I got a lot of cleaning up to do, and I got to leave for Poland in the morning for Ultra Race, which is like my favorite event of the year, so I'm super excited. For now, we'll take this win and run with it, so you guys know the deal. Like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for more content. We'll see you very shortly.